It's day 2 of the Ohio High School Boys State Championships. Danny Holbrook, Miles Holliday, Nate Garlock. Guys, what a great state tournament we've had so far.
It has been absolutely incredible. Who's going to be the next Gator Nichols, right? That young man was just fabulous yesterday.
Yeah, we saw 3 great games yesterday. You can't get any better than that.
No, I mean, you had 2 of them that were right down to the wire, everything that you would want a state championship game to be, and hopefully we get a couple of more of those here today.
Yeah, the next one we're going to talk about, guys, is Marion Local and Monroe Central, and I really feel like this is going to be a game within a game. If the Monroe Central guards can handle the pressure, we've seen the pressure all year from Marion Local. It's the best I've ever seen as far as on-ball defense and pressure, keeping the ball out of the middle.
Yeah, without a doubt. Marion Local, what do they love to do? They're physical. They play great defense. How are you going to solve that problem? Well, you have to be physical back. Will Monroe Central be able to be physical with them?
Yeah.
When you talk about, Marion Local and this pressure defense, right? When they play at home in the hangar, it's a smaller gym. You don't have as much ground to cover, but they have proven that it doesn't matter if they're at home at the hangar or they go to the big arenas, they can continue to put that pressure even on the big floors. I don't think that will change here tonight.
Well, you wonder if Monroe Central will have a little bit of advantage because they played in an arena already this year. They played at Ohio U, so it shouldn't be a shock. Sometimes shooters will say shooting in a background with an arena setting is very difficult. They should be used to it.
Yeah, but Marion Local's coming from Bowling Green, and Bowling Green is known for not being the most friendly when it comes to that shooting eye until you get used to it. So I don't think that'll be too hard of a transition for the Flyers.
Look, Monroe Central's got good guards. They've got a couple double-digit scores. But look, when you come into an arena like this and you play a Marion Local with the tradition and the history, it's got to have some effect on you, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, right? The first 5 minutes is going to be absolutely crucial for Monroe Central. They're going to have to rely on their senior guys, the guys that carry the ball every time they get a chance to score towards the rim. They're going to have to be fantastic. We're talking about Chase Allen and Tucker Howell. Those guys are going to have to be big-time double-digit scorers here tonight.
And I would imagine that they will be, right? You're talking about those 2 players. They're the 2 most prolific scorers in Monroe's history, right? No one has scored more points than those guys. They know how to get points. They know how to total them up. They're going to be a big challenge for the Flyers.
Yeah. Austin Niekamp, Braden Mesher, Ryan Homan, those guys. Guys, remember last year how they lost in such a grueling fashion. They're back here again this year. These guys have been through the wars. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, and we talked about this all season long when it comes to Marion Local, right? Winning, that's winning, that's winning. I mean, they know how to win. They're around it. It isn't just the basketball program. We know the history of the football team and other programs over at Marion Local. They just breed winning. And when you're around winning all the time, it spills into other things. And also, you got schools that are this small like Marion Local. Those guys have played in those other sports. They know what it's like to be part of championship teams, and they get to bring that experience here tonight. And, you talk about the loss last year and how upsetting that was. That's going to fuel that fire. They're going to come in tonight. They do not want to repeat that feeling.
Well, you always got to feel good when you have the best player on the floor, right? They'll have Austin Niekamp, 6'8", monster, but he's got touch, he's got skill, he can shoot the 3 ball at 38%. And he's a really good basketball player, and Malone's happy to have him.
Miles, let's take a look at the keys for both these teams. Let's start with Monroe Central first.
Well, number 1 for Monroe Central, and they will tell you they got to be better at the free throw line. 4 of 15 in the last round. Very lucky that they advanced going 4 of 15. So they got to take care of those free points, especially against a great defensive team like Marion Local. And for Marion Local, who's the other guy? You're going to get points from Niekamp, right? They always have that extra guy that steps forward. Holman last time out, he had 11. Who's going to be that guy that contributes for them, helps them win this game?
Nate, Marion Local, you look at them, and they could play a 70-point game or a 40-point game. They're just that they can do all those things, right?
Yeah, and I think the key for them here tonight is going to be able to, kind of what Miles has said, right? They got to find somebody else. I think Mesher's another guy that they can really try to rely on tonight with that scoring. But it doesn't matter. We've seen them get drug into games, right? Low scoring, tough defensive games. They know how to play those. High scoring, up and down, basket, trading baskets, need to stop when it counts type of game. They've been able to play those and win those as well. So Marion Local just needs to continue doing what they know how to do, make sure that they're able to make adjustments here tonight. If they can make adjustments to what Monroe Central sends out them, they're going to be fine. And then for Monroe, it's just going to be they got to be able to handle the pressure, right? I know it's such a simple thing to say, right?
Until you're in it.
You can't turn the ball over. But if they can protect the basketball and they can bring it up the floor and they not have empty possessions, they're going to give themselves such a better opportunity against this Flyer.
I think if this is a 40-point game, the score's in the 40s, I think Marion Local wins this one easy.
Yeah, I think if it's in the 70s, Marion Local wins it. What do you think?
Right.
I'm going Marion Local.
Local.
What do you think? I like Marion Local.
I like Marion Local.
I like Marion Local also.
Yeah. Monroe Central and the Marion Local playing for a state championship in Division 6 right here on WOSN.
Coach, can you make a general comment about the game?
Sure. Yeah, again, give Monroe Central credit. They are a very, very good basketball team. As I look at the stats, the difference in the game was the first quarter. And, we had been warned, we had a week to prepare, and so did they. But we had been warned that they, are very much a fast-starting team. They surprise teams with their athleticism. And that's what happened today. We had too many turnovers in the first quarter. We didn't get a lot of shots on goal. And, I really thought we did a pretty darn good job on them defensively in the second half once we got our feet under us. But in the first half, Farnsworth, give him credit, he made some open shots. We allowed 3 transition baskets in the first half, which is not what we do, and that's everything they do. That was a big key coming in the game, but they got 3 of them in the first half. But we got outscored 14-6 in the first quarter, and then from there it was an even game. We made some runs at them. That run that we made right before the half was pretty important. And I want to say we got it down to 2 maybe at one point in the third or fourth quarter. We were there, but you just give them credit. And then obviously, between the turnovers and we didn't shoot the ball well tonight. I think we were 4 of 11 from the line and 3 of 17 from 3. And, the one other thing I'll say is, this team had flaws that we've overcome all year. And tonight I think our flaws got exposed a little bit. We're not a great shooting basketball team, and we needed to be tonight.
They were just in here talking about getting off to a fast start, and I heard somebody over on the radio side talk about something about they came out scoring and you came out running offense. Did it feel like that way to you?
That they came out.
They came out shooting and scoring, firing, coming out, and you were just running offense and couldn't score.
Yeah, and they run a really good motion offense, and I don't think I coached my best game tonight. We probably tried to run a few too many sets. Maybe I should have let our kids just play a little bit more. Their number 5 did a great job on Braden, our point guard. He can usually get to the rim a little bit better than he did today. We turned it over. We made some defensive mistakes in the first quarter, and they made us pay. And again, I really thought, after that it was an even game.
Got it from 13 down to 6 at the half, and then got it down to 2 early in the third quarter. It just seemed like you kind of found something that really kind of started working for you to get back within the game.
It was huge to make that run at the end of the first half, to get it to manageable. We got it to 2. We just couldn't get over the hump. I thought if we could just get the game tied or get the lead, maybe, things would swing our way. But great teams like, they've been in these situations too a lot. Here's the other thing. We've played from ahead almost all year. Like, if you look back at our scores, I can't tell you how many times we've almost never been behind the whole year. It's probably the weirdest season I've had in that regard as a coach. We played from ahead almost every single game. I don't know if we trailed at the half in hardly any games all year. And, it was a different position for our kids to be in. And, it just maybe we struggle with that a little bit.
With Austin and Grant, getting down that, something not used to getting down like that. Just talk about what you guys were talking to each other about to get back into the game.
We were just saying stay in it. Just keep going. We knew Monroe Central wasn't a great free throw shooting team, and even if we were down, if they missed some free throws, we made some shots, we would still be in the game.
Just keep our confidence. As long as we keep our confidence, keep going at them, we'd be fine. But, things just didn't go our way. And we weren't shooting the ball that great, and they ended up on top.
How much did the size of the arena have with depth perception? Because you guys are accustomed to playing in those little gyms, and does that make a difference when you look up there at the rim and there's outer space behind it?
I've played enough games like AAU in high school where it's in college arenas. I thought like my freshman year, it was like, whoa, at BG, it's like, whoa, this is kind of big, but now I'm kind of used to it. But
it may seem like it's a little out in space. It's not really your thing, but at home we have our student section behind us, so we're kind of used to that. And it's just a big ass arena. But it was cool to see all the fans there and stuff. And
we played at the regional final at Wright State, and we shot it pretty well. And we played at BG, which is not quite as big an arena, but we've played in some big venues. So I think you would give credit more to Monroe Central than anything.
Coach, clearly two teams that emphasize defense. That's not the case, all around the state for every team. Do you think that's the reason it was you and them at the end of the season?
Yeah, we hang our hat on defense. I'll be honest, they were better defensively than I thought they were. I thought we could back screen them and ball screen them more a little, and they really covered it up. They just knew that we didn't shoot it well, so they really packed it in on Austin. We had a size advantage down there, but when you're seeing a double team almost every time, it's just hard to go there. Again, maybe I could have went away from running so many sets and maybe gone back to just letting us play basketball and run motion. And that's what they did, and that's why they're hard to guard, because they're very good in their motion offense. But yeah, we're always going to emphasize defense, and we think that has served us well over the years.
Coach, I'm a neutral observer, haven't seen either team play. I'm an ex-official. It appeared to me during this entire tournament, not just in today's game, but these officials are letting them play. Do you think that had any effect on the outcome of the game for your team?
Well, my point of view with regard to officials, and I think our officials today did a great job, my point of view is don't get in the way, let the kids decide the game. So, we're a football school, so if they let them play, that usually plays into our advantage. We want a physical game. And so I was fine with how the game was called today. You got to let the kids decide the game. All these ticky-tack fouls. I think college has really gone away from that. The college has really gone to the ticky-tack stuff. And I get the other side of the argument because fans want to see high-level basketball, shooting, passing, and scoring. They probably don't want to see that physical brand. But we're just gonna play to how they call it. And in high school, they usually let you play, and we're fine with that because we're a football school.
Well, Coach, I wasn't critical of the officiating. I just thought that, some officials call close games, some let them play. And I thought throughout the tournament, the officiating's been excellent, but they let them play.
And that's great. That's just like we like it. We like to let them play. And again, I thought the officials today did a great job.
Coach, you said the difference was the first quarter. How much of a difference was the free throw difference? Because in the final minute 54, your team went 0 for 2 at the line. Monroe went 6 for 10. How much of a difference over the course of the whole game was the free throw line?
Yeah, obviously we went 4 for 11, which really hurt us to stay in the game. It's when you got a low-scoring game like this, 43-35, like you got to make them at the free throw line. If we make a couple of those, it could be a completely different game. But that's like we have not been a great free throw shooting team all year, but we made them in the regional finals. We made them in the state semis. And we knew they weren't a great foul shooting team either, so we thought we still have a chance here because they turn it over a little bit late in some of their previous games, and they also don't make free throws at a high clip, but they made enough, and the game came down to we didn't put the ball in the hole enough. That's what it was.
Any more questions?
This can be for all three of you, not the way you want the season to end, obviously, but if you could look back and take anything away from this season, what would it be for each of you?
I'll start. It was just so much fun. With 4 years of basketball, I've never had this much fun playing basketball. AAU, high school, it seems awesome. We hang out almost every night, go to Brandon Hess's house and go to his basement and play poker. I'm just going to miss that, but sucks that it ended this way. It's life. Not really. We're kind of just packed in there and playing some Xbox, playing some poker. It's just fun.
These guys are going to be my friends for life. I mean, the memories we created this year are something I never imagined of, but, looking back on that 2018 team, I mean, we just wanted to do that. I mean, I think we had a mindset early on, and that's what we stuck to.
And I'll just say, this team, I think we surprised some teams this year with, starting out 11-0 and 20-2 in a regular season. Typically, we get off to a slow start because of football, but this year we hit the ground running. And, every kid, we had that post game today, and it was hard. There was a lot of tears and a lot of laughter at the same time. Every single dude in there hugged every other dude in there. Every single dude. It was there. This is the closest team I've had. The 2018 team was very close as well. But this is easily the closest team that I've had. And, sports, sometimes you go to war and it doesn't go your way, but it's about building relationships. And we built relationships that we're never going to forget, and we're always going to have each other's back. These suits are a product of Jacob Sherrick, one of our assistants. We got a great coaching staff. We probably have one of the best coaching staffs in the state. And Jacob and Layden DeLauder do a great job, and J.M. Wally and Ted Jones and Nathan Bruns came on this year. But those guys are great. We have young guys on the staff that do this kind of stuff. They get an old codger like me to wear this. Jacob's been going to the state tournament with his dad. His dad, this is his 50th year setting up his tailgate at the state tournament. First year was 1975 when Marion won the state tournament. That was his first year. This is the 50th year anniversary of doing that. And we made it back again to the state final. And since Jacob's been a little boy, he's always wanted to come back here. And he said, if I ever make it to the state championship game, we're going to do this. He's seen Denny, I'm losing his name from Elida now, Denny Thompson. They did it in 2012 when Elida made the state final. So he said, we're going to wear these suits. And, some people would say, maybe you're showboating or whatever, but we don't care. We had not only did the kids have fun, the staff had fun. We had a great time all year, and we were going to let it loose today, and it just didn't go our way.
We were thinking Nordstrom Rack.
Yeah, they weren't that high quality. I'll tell you, it was under $100. I'll tell you that for sure. So,
Kurt, how do you kind of encompass just what this community has been through since the summer? I mean, you play on the last day of football season, you play on the last day of basketball season. These kids are just really used to success in the big stage, and they always handle it like pros. Just where does that all come from, and how big has this community been in support of this program and the programs in general?
Yeah, I'll go one season prior to that. Our track team won the state championship. This is a third consecutive season that we made it to the last day. It really starts with the parents. We have a lot of two-parent homes, and we have a foundation of our church. Our Catholic church, and when you have a strong foundation like that, and then you build on that with a school, but it really starts with our parents. We have just great parents. And our administration at our school, Tim Goodwin has set a culture in our school, and Mike Pullman, they set a culture that just trickles down to the rest of the school, and they make the job of the coaches and the teachers pretty darn easy. So, we're extremely blessed, and we know it. We know we're extremely blessed. Nobody died today. We're gonna, we're gonna move on, and I told the kids, it's next best action. What's the next best thing you can do? And that's just love each other and handle yourself with the class.
Marion Local falls short in their quest for another state title. Division VI, they fall to the Monroe Central Seminoles 43-35. Danny Holbrook, Miles Holliday, Nate Garlock. Guys, from the beginning of this game, Marion Local just did not seem to have it today. The speed of Monroe Central, the aggressiveness of Monroe Central. I mean, we could pick a lot of things out. It just didn't go Marion Local's way.
Yeah, 7-0 start for Monroe Central. Got them off to a great start. Look, the one thing that they did extremely well is they made Austin Niekamp absolutely earn everything. Farnsworth did a great job picking him up at half court. Everything that Austin Niekamp got, he had to work really hard to get.
Nate, we talked between the quarters about the speed of Monroe Central. We were all three blown away with it. We did not expect that. I don't know that Marion Local expected it either.
Yeah, and I'm shocked how long it took to them to adjust to it. They've seen speed this year. They've gone against some really quick teams in the MAC, Delphos St. John's being one, Minster. They have seen speed. I was a little surprised that it caught them so off guard. You go through an Austin Niekamp and being held scoreless in that first quarter. He didn't get his first basket until about 2 minutes into that second quarter. They only had 10 points with about 1:10 left to go in that first half before they went on a 7-0 run to close out the second. They just never, for some reason, could get into that offense or into a rhythm in that offense. You got to credit Monroe Central for that, obviously.
Fantastic defense.
They did a great job. They put a lot of pressure on them. In the pregame, fellas, we're talking about whether or not Monroe's going to be able to hold on to the basketball and the turnovers that Marion Local's going to be able to produce on them, and it was vice versa.
Yeah, Miles, you look at the turnover situation in Marion Local uncharacteristics, 10 of them at halftime, 16 for the game. They just couldn't get into a rhythm, and I credit Monroe Central with a lot of defensive pressure.
Yeah, anytime your point guard has 9 turnovers, that's going to spell a recipe for disaster, right? And then you put on top of that, shooting poorly at the free throw line, only 34%, shooting from behind the arc at only 17%. It was the worst time to play your worst game of the year, and unfortunately, unfortunately, Marion Local did that.
Yeah, you look at this Marion Local team and you look at the career of Austin Niekamp. What a fantastic player he is. He was the man today. They worked so hard to get him in the ball, but Monroe Central did such a great job of double down in the post. And a lot of guys I thought should have stepped up and shot more, maybe went to the basket, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell the game plan was to try to get Austin going on the inside. They were working really hard to try to get the ball inside to him. There just wasn't a lot of avenues. And when there was always a double team coming. They couldn't get him free on the one-on-ones. They did a nice job of pushing him towards the baseline. So even when he did spin, he was going too far underneath the basket. And then there wasn't a lot of outlets. Monroe did a great job of filling in those passing lanes, just causing all sorts of havoc for Marion Local. They never got a chance to breathe, and so they never really could reset.
They did a great job of forcing them to try the three-pointer, right?
Yes,
and they weren't shooting really well, so it just compounded the difficulties on offense.
Miles, were you surprised? 2 bench points from Marion Local. 2, which is unbelievable, as deep as they can go.
And especially when we talked in the pregame about who's going to be that next guy that steps forward, right? They've always gotten contributions from anybody that comes on the floor, gives them double-digit scoring. They just didn't get that today. But you got to give a lot of credit to Monroe Central. I mean, Tucker Howell was absolutely fantastic. Didn't score a ton of points, but he didn't need to. Got 9 rebounds, had 3 assists. Best player in school history. He came up big.
Well, and you're talking about giving credit to that defense. Corbin Farnsworth, he's the one that drew the assignment
without
on
doubt.
Austin Niekamp. He was the one that put a lot of that pressure on him, was leaning on him, making him work for everything, and really held Austin in check.
And that'll do it from the University of Dayton Arena, where the Marion Local Flyers fall short 43-35 in the Division VI state championship game. We're here at the University of Dayton Arena. Danny Holbrook, Miles Holliday, Nate Garlock, Mark Shine, and we're ready for the Division VII state championship. The Russia Raiders taking on Cornerstone Christian with the all-time leading scorer in the state of Ohio, Quinn Kwasniak. Mark, how do you stop a guy like this?
Well, first of all, you've got a physical defensive team in Russia. They've got a lot of size, a lot of strength. They've got a great defensive guard in Vince Borgers. I imagine he will get the primary assignment, but they'll run a lot of guys at him too.
Yeah, Russia Raiders undefeated this year. 12 seniors, special group of kids. They've been doing it a long time.
They have. And look, this has all kind of been this big build, right? Over the last 3 years leading into this year, it has been a Russia team that has gone through a lot. And they've got a lot of adversity. They've come up against a really tough team in Richmond Heights the last few years at the state level. This all kind of feels like it's building right to this final payoff where we finally get to see Russia raise that trophy.
Yeah, kind of a match we wanted to see, right, Miles? The best, supposedly the best player in the state of Ohio at this level against maybe the best defensive team in the state of Ohio.
Well, and I'm sure Russia's happy to see Richmond Heights is not here, right? So a new opponent for them. And Danny, really, it's a matchup of styles make fights, right? You got Quinn Kwasniak that can score in bunches and they will get up and down, and you got Russia who will play a little bit more measured of a tempo. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this one.
Guys, give me each a key for these teams to win this game, Mark.
Well, Darren Davis is the other big gun, I guess you want to call him. He's 6'5". He's going to have to play really, really well for Cornerstone Christian. He represents their size against a Russia team that's got size all across the board. He will have to have a good game today.
Nate?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just Russia's got to play within themselves, not to try to do anything more than what they've been doing all season long. Nothing fancy. It's what got them here is what they know, their game plan, stick to it, and make sure that they see it through.
I'm with Mark on that one. Kwasniak's going to get his points, right? Don't get so enamored with him. Limit the other guys around him. Make sure nobody else blows up. Kwasniak gets his points. Okay, that's fine.
We went down the line last game, guys, and we all picked Marion Local. I'm still picking Russia. I hope nobody's mad at me.
Well, I'm going to go with Russia. There's only been 48 teams in the history of the state of Ohio basketball who've been undefeated through the regular season and won a state championship. They'd like to be number 49. I'm going with Russia Raiders.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think Russia obviously is a clear favorite here. I'm going with Russia. I'm actually really curious, though, Mark. You've been watching a lot of state basketball game over the years, right? You've seen a lot of teams come through. Have you ever seen a team like Russia, this many seniors, this kind of history, this build to a state final game?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times. We did so the other night on the Three Wise Men. Spencer has done a great job with his team. You're trying to keep 11 seniors and their families happy. That's a really challenge. And also along with that, you've got to have some guys who are 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on your bench who are willing to accept that. Congratulations to the team just getting here with that situation.
Let me ask you guys this. Let's say Quinn Kwasniak gets 45, 50 points. Does Russia still win this game?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
But the point is he can score in bunches.
Right, yeah.
You think you've got a comfortable lead of 8 or 10, all of a sudden you're down 4.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with it.
Yeah. It's Russia and Cornerstone Christian in Division VII state championship. We got it here from University of Dayton Arena.
First of all, hats off to Cornerstone Christian. That kid is something. I mean, we told these guys all week long, like, look, I don't know that you guys understand. This kid doesn't know a bad shot,
And he got on a roll there in the second quarter, and I was like, whew, how in the world are we going to adjust and try to slow him down? I guess the answer wasn't putting Jackson on him. Yeah, that was mentioned last weekend. I won't name any names. He's not in this room, but that was mentioned, putting him on him. But he that's when he backed up and shot over the top. So we kind of weathered the storm. Halftime helped us out to eliminate some of that, and we told the guys at halftime, just stay the course, stay the course. They're going to get tired. They're going to wear down a little bit. The middle of the floor is still extremely wide open. So I don't know if any of you watched me hollering at 2 or 3 of these guys, like, get to the middle of the floor, please. And we told them that, number one, on Tuesday when we came back, that, this is going to be similar to last Friday. The beauty of it is we don't have to change much offensively. Defensively, yes, but and on Wednesday, we tried a couple different things, and these guys basically looked at me like, Coach, let's not reinvent the wheel here. And we weren't. We were just trying a few things, but they were like, we got it. We got it. We can take care of this. With the understanding that we knew we weren't going to hold him to 10 or 15 points. It takes too many shots for that. But we were hoping to hold him a little bit less than 37, but we did a fantastic job covering up outside of him, and we're state champs. I mean, I don't know what else to say. These kids are winners. All 11 of them, they're winners.
Spencer, just having the thing is, you've been here, and this didn't happen, and for it to happen finally, what are your thoughts about, like, we finally did this, guys, and what do you think about that?
These guys have been on a mission all year. And since day one, this is one of their goals, was to get here. Okay? They just put so much work in and are so very coachable. And you can see, I told, the guys that don't get to play very much, I'm sorry, this is how it went down this year, but we talked about it the first day of practice, like, there's 11 of you. You can't all play. I can't play all of you. That's really hard to look at a kid and tell them that before the season even starts. 4 or 5 or 6 of you may not get to play much because, you got juniors and sophomores in there as well. But I never heard one word. A couple of them were just as emotional as everybody else. So that speaks to how, number one, how they've been raised to handle that. Number two, how close they've been over these years. Do they hang out off the floor all the time? No, not all the time. But when there's a job to do, these guys just get it done. Last weekend when we went up to BG and practiced, our scout team just beat the daylights out of these guys. Well, I did hear, we didn't expect it to be doing some of that. We thought we were just coming up here to shoot. Well, whether or not you expected it or not, they took it to you, and they got you prepared for last Friday. And they did the same thing this week.
Real quick, and then defensively, third quarter, he got 3 shots. Just talk about your discussion about what you were going to do second half to deal with Quinn, and then also if Ben could talk about, being a guy that was out there on him a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it was kind of a blur, like, I don't know what to do here. He's still getting shots. People were coming open underneath the rim. And you know, coming in at halftime, I think it was York and Vince and a couple other ones, maybe Bray, and we got to run at him. It was working. We have to run at him. So, you know, like I've said many times before, we trust these guys, and that's what we did. We just kept somebody up and ran at him, and what did he end up, 14 in the second half? With a little bit of length.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just a single effort. I mean, all these guys out here, they're communicating, jumping out on the ball screens and on the back screens. They're making sure that I had a chance to get over the screen and get back to them. And then just knowing that they were behind me, if I needed help, that I was good.
Did you feel like you were just scrambling, or did you feel pretty?
Yeah. Spencer yelled at me a couple times. He was like, just chase after him. I was like, I'm trying, but you only go for so long. I think the one possession we played for like 40 straight seconds, I switched off, and I think Braylon took him for a little bit, but yep, so it's tiring, but we got it done.
You've talked about the team, this being a goal for them since the beginning of the season, and throughout this tournament, you've kind of talked about how that, not that it surprised you, but that it was definitely a lofty goal. Was there any point in time specifically in this season that, for you began to think, like, this is something that could happen?
Yeah, I don't know what game it was or who we played. And you look at some teams on the schedule that you can judge. You know, you look at it like, okay, we're really gonna get a good gauge as to how good we are. I forget who we were playing, but we handled them pretty good. It wasn't the last game of the season, but it's around 16th or 17th game. I don't know who it was, but afterwards I was like, we're pretty good. You're going to have to be pretty good offensively to beat us. And then there's no guarantees because we're pretty good offensively. I'll let some of these guys kind of answer that too, if they have anything to say. You know?
I mean, we talked about it in the beginning room in a second grade classroom, and we set goals for ourselves. You know, our first one was 12-0 in the league. Second one was 22-0 in the regular season. And obviously the last one was go 29-0 and be a state champ. So I think, you know, putting that in stone in the first practice and getting that in our minds that, hey, like, we can do this, I think that really just set a tone for the whole season.
For any of the four guys sitting down now, there's 11 of you, and like Coach mentioned, you can't all play, but can you just talk about the contribution from the guys standing behind you that weren't always on the court on game day, but what they meant to the team?
Yeah, it's been huge for us all year. The guys behind us have been playing great defense for us in practice, and they worked so much harder than you would ever imagine. It's great from them.
Yeah, these guys, I mean, they might obviously don't get to play much, but after practice, they're in there cracking jokes with us, and it's just a team effort all the way around, and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else but these guys.
Yeah, and could Landon or Caleb or Micah also come forward and talk about what it's like to be a part of this team?
It's pretty special. We just come together and then we play together, and then we just have fun off the court too. You know, most nights we're hanging out together at his house in the barn, watching basketball, watching football, whatever. I mean, gambling.
With fake money, of course. They're playing Monopoly. Yeah, they're playing Monopoly.
Yeah, being part of this team is something really special that, you know, not many people really get to do. You see so many teams where maybe their chemistry just isn't quite like ours. I mean, like Coach said, we don't hang out every single day off the court, but we do quite a bit, and we're all friends here. I mean, like, I don't get to play a ton, but I don't even really care because just watching these guys just makes me so happy. Just watching Dom get a dunk or Vince cross a guy up. I mean, we're just all family, really, so.
Literally.
Coach, one thing, I think is worth noting, we've come in here, after every single one of these games for these pressers, and you guys are the first team that has brought up every single senior right to the table, and like that, to me, that's just awesome. I think it speaks volumes of just the culture that you guys have down there at Russia. So my question to you is like, man, what's the one thing you're going to miss most about these guys?
Just, I don't know. They're all different personalities. You know, we were all together last night at Coach Francis's house watching March Madness games, and they're cracking on each other, telling jokes, and this is like really the first team that I've ever had that I could probably say whatever I wanted to them, and they weren't. It was like, okay, that's just Spencer, you know. No, they're all special. Every single one of them has special traits. They come into practice every single day, and you know, number 11 is working just as hard as number 1, and you know, to see them every day in practice cracking on each other, but knowing when to get after it. They just, in all the bus trips to these scrimmages, you know, our scrimmage schedule, we like to travel an hour and a half and go get pizza afterwards, and they, you know, just the special bond between them. And, you know, these guys have accomplished so much athletically, so much in their 4 years. But the biggest thing is how good of human beings they've become, and how humble they've stayed. They're not flashy. They don't do this or they don't do that on the floor. They just play the game the right way, and you know, these guys are just the epitome of team basketball. And BTA.
BTA, so.
Why'd you do that to me?
Hey, Coach, first off, congratulations. Man, this is just such a great group of winning kids here in multiple sports. But can you talk about, most of us that think that we know what we're talking about, knew you had 3 guys with a lot of experience back, but Dom, if I'm not mistaken, only played maybe less than a minute last year down here against Richmond Heights. Can you talk, because I thought they had no answer for him. I thought he was huge for you today. Talk about the evolution of him over the last 365 days.
I told him after the game, I said, I've been on your tail since day one. It's over. He used a couple choice words at me. I said, it's over, that's it. You know, and, you know, when you were a freshman, where were you, like 5'11"? Yeah. 5'10"? You know, he goes from 5'10" to 6'6" in like 2.5 years, and we're sitting there with this big, gigantic, athletic kid, and he took everything that we threw at him. The first couple weeks of the season were pretty trying, weren't they? Okay? And we tried to push him and then backed off a little bit and then pushed him some more, and he responded each and every time. And, you know, we just flat out told him, you get every rebound you can. You stay on the block, get every rebound you can, and you flat out leave your man and go block shots. And, you know, to fill that role that Felix left, which is his first cousin from last year, we said right away, Dominic is not Felix, but he can be just as dominating. And boy, oh boy, he took every punch we threw at him and just kept grinding and grinding and grinding. And I know he didn't like it every single night out, but he just took it and really made himself into a very fine high school basketball player. You know, and he put the work in last summer. He was in the gym all the time, knowing that this was it, right? And I actually told him there in the end, I said, if you get the chance, just throw it down as hard as you can. Hang on the rim, I don't care. Get a technical if you want. This is your moment. But no, he did a fantastic job all year. He handled everything we threw at him, and he just kept working and working, and you know, he was as big, if not anybody, on this team.
Hey, Spence, somebody downstairs before I came up asked me, because
they announced this is the something anniversary of the Shelby County League. How many
100 years.
Huh?
100 years.
100 years for the league. Every time Stan Evans says it, it's different. But and your 1,000th win, and this person said, is this the best team in the history of the Shelby County League? So before either Gilbert and I write about it, I thought I'll put this on you and let you talk about that.
I'm going to raise that up.
Yeah,
Say yes.
yeah. Given what you've done the last 2 years and culminating with this year, this person said, is this the best team ever in that league?
Coach Francis won't allow me to say anything other than yes.
He's a math teacher, though.
Yeah. I'll leave that. We believe, and these guys probably believe, that they are. There's been a lot of really good teams. The Shelby County year in and year out is very, very difficult to win. And like I said, there's been a lot of really good teams, a lot of really good players. We can believe that, and then we'll just allow everybody else to debate it.
Braylon, you said last week you were ready to be done with this. And you are done. How do you feel about that? But also, what are you going to miss?
Just being with these guys. We've been together for the last, I don't know how many years, 10, 11, I think. The last 2 years, been playing with some upperclassmen, but to come back into the senior year, play with all of these guys again, and to get it done with them just feels great. It's over obviously now, so we can move on, but I'm going to miss it.
He was crying at the end of the game, by the way, just so you know. It wasn't too sad.
One thing he told me in December, because he asked me, he's like, oh, man, this is a long season. I was like, dude, it's only Christmas. We got a long ways to go here. He's like, I know. But, that's what these guys, that's where they come together. And I knew all year long they were just going to keep fighting. And he wasn't any different than the rest of them. Even though he's looking forward to baseball, he just kept fighting. And they all had a common goal, and here we are.
Neil's calling, he's glad it's over.
I'm sure he is.
We hear from Dominic at all? Yeah. What do you think?
Give him something, Dom.
State champs is pretty cool.
Are you grateful for the how you
Yeah, it was hard a lot of days, but
It was.
we got the job done to the end, so I got to be grateful. And all the coaches helped me, all my teammates, my friends. I won't be able to call them teammates after this day, but I'm gonna still hang out with them every single day at school, every day at recess, and we're just all friends. So
We don't take recess.
we do take recess.
We know.
These guys don't do anything at school.
Coach Spencer, and hi. So this goes to everyone. You mentioned that earlier this week it wasn't just for the team, it wasn't just for the community, but it's for, Zane Shappy, Hayden Quinter, Flippo, the list goes on, to be able to bring home a state championship and to, kind of honor kind of like the memory of those who weren't able to compete in a state title game. What does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, I can't name all their names, but, 2 years ago, Zane Shappy, wears his heart on his sleeve. Hayden Quinter played 4 years of varsity basketball, and Braden Monin and Fiedling. And I can't name everybody, but the list goes on and on. And I know it's cliche, but it really is. That's what it's really for. Not everybody gets this opportunity. And, it's not fair to those other guys that this collection of guys all came into school together, right? Not everybody gets that opportunity. So, even like my dad, I know one thing I'm tired of is hearing my dad talk about his state title and my son talk about his in baseball. And they look at me and go, where's yours at? Well, that's over. That stuff's over. But, anybody that's ever put it on, I know there's going to be one gigantic party in Russia and tonight, and every darn one of them people are going to feel like they're a state champ as well.
The Russia Raiders get it done as they go undefeated and win the Division 7 state title, beating the Cornerstone Christian Patriots 74-57. Danny Holbrook, Miles Holliday, Nate Garlock, Mark Shine. Guys, what a dominant performance, Mark. The Russia Raiders, they've been here a couple times. They finally got it done.
You know what, Danny? In the second half, until they subbed out, they had 24 possessions, and they scored on 18 of them. Only 6 empty possessions in the second half. When the game was on the line, they took over and dominated.
Nate, Braden Cordonia and Dom Francis. Wow, what a performance for those two.
Yeah, I mean, underneath, Dom Francis, he just went to work. He had some incredible highlight dunks as well, but it was his work on the inside, really getting a lot of easy baskets, really led to a lot of opening up the floor for everybody else. They did a great job. I mean, look, we talked about in the pregame, right? It just felt like this was Russia's time, that it was just going to be their coronation, and it was exactly that.
Yeah, Miles, Quinn Kwasniak for Cornerstone Christian. When you talk about range, he did everything he could to keep his team in the game. Just didn't have enough horses.
That first half is about as good basketball you're ever going to see a guy have, right? He was absolutely exquisite for hitting deep three balls the whole first half. But you give credit to Russia in the second half. Ran 2 guys at him, get the ball out of his hands. Fantastic game plan. He was a lot of fun to watch, though.
Guys, we talk about it all the time, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Russia, a small community, Division 7. What this means to that community is everything.
Well, I think that there's 2 things to that. First of all, small community. Everybody was here. A lot of Shelby County people were here. Some Marion local people hung around, too, to help them, support them today. Yeah, you're right, small community, but also coming here 2 times, not getting it done, getting a chance to get it done a 3rd time, and pulling through all those seniors. Really big event.
Nate, 29-0. It doesn't matter what level you're at. When you do something undefeated, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exclamation point on an excellent season and an excellent career for all of those seniors. But, you know, we were talking to an assistant coach prior to the game started. 7 of these seniors, Monday after school, will be at baseball practice.
Yeah, Miles. And Quinn Kwasniak, what a career he had. You know, they lose this game, but he's the all-time leading scorer in the state of Ohio, and he was just tremendous.
One of the best scorers ever in Ohio State history, right? And, Danny, I'm a little disappointed, though. You didn't break out your yellow headband for this segment. You're given a yellow headband.
You have to tune in 3 wise.
You need to wear it, yeah.
The Russia Raiders end the season 30-0 and win the Division 7 state title. Big thank you to everybody from WOSN, Mark Shine, Nate Garlock, Miles Holliday, Danny Holbrook. It's been a pleasure to serve you all basketball season long.